I'll start with a little intro and then we'll go. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Philly Boots Rugby Round Table. My name's Sean Phelan, welcome. We've done these for the last 14 weeks, but now we're going to talk bit of sevens. You've probably seen it around the news and various sort of media sites at the moment that, well, I'll let the guys explain in a second, but they need some help getting to Tokyo next year, and we're going to have a chat about sort of what's happened in the last few months and what needs to happen to get there. So first, I want to introduce Ethan Waddleton from the England Sevens and Ben Lonergan, who is strength and conditioning coach with the England Sevens ladies. How are you, gentlemen?
Good, thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for giving up your time this evening. Ben, right. I'll start with you. So what has happened in the last couple of months that has led to sort of this need and want from you guys to get to the Olympics?
Yeah, so obviously with the current COVID climate, sort of, many organisations are struggling financially. Unfortunately, the RFU hasn't been exempt to that and have had to make certain changes in order for them to, to stay almost afloat as an organisation. So sort of one of their business ideas they had was to sort of cut the sevens program in order to save some investment. Now it's been obviously a very difficult time for staff and players. With obviously the current climate and there not being a huge amount of options sort of available again for staff and players. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenging time, and obviously with the players more so the fact that Tokyo obviously has now been postponed a year, and some of these individuals obviously, well, I say still some of them, all of these individuals, as far as I'm aware, have aspirations to still, go and fulfill their dream of competing at Tokyo. So that's the situation we're in at the moment. There's currently no sort of full-time sevens program. Players are still training in their own time, off their own backs with whatever resources they can muster. But yeah, we're looking to try and seek some private and external investment in order to get a sort of full-time functioning sevens program back up and running to ensure that the players have the best opportunity to go and compete at Tokyo. You'll probably see on some of the social media outlets that teams like South Africa, teams like France, they've all started back training now. Now, in order for these guys to compete and like they certainly the men's program have medalled at every major competition, Commonwealth, World Cup, Olympics, and I know the women came fourth in Rio. So medal hopes available. So to compete against these teams, they need to be up and training as soon as possible.
And Ethan, how did you find out that the program had been cut and you'd sort of, I don't know, I guess been made redundant?
It came on sort of a Zoom call. Like I think the staff and the players had a different one, but all the players from the men's and the women's were called together on, I think it was a Monday or whenever, I don't know the date exactly. But yeah, we got the dreaded call, basically saying there was not going to be any sevens. If there was tournaments, it was going to be sort of a pay as you play sort of thing. But yeah, we had some Zoom calls sort of during lockdown that were leading towards it, but not really. And it was sort of a bit of everyone was chatting about it. Is it going to happen? They can't do this, they can't do that. But yeah, we just got a Zoom call and basically told that sevens wouldn't be full time. It would be sort of like I said, a week before the tournaments, you'd come along, train, fly out for the tournaments, and then that would be it. So
how have the last couple of months been for you?
It's been tough. It's been really tough, especially for everyone. Like Lorna said, with the climate at the moment, getting a job in everyday life's hard enough, but especially as a rugby player. With the Prem, they sort of cut their squads and their funding as well, that because of what's going on, and it's been hard to try and get a gig and stay afloat and be able to do what we do, which is train because a lot of people have had to pick up jobs, and I'm sort of out there looking, and I know everyone else has had to get jobs in the meantime to keep afloat. So it's tough to find time to train, to stay as a collective, which we've been doing quite well, to be fair. There's been a couple groups of us that have got together and actually had a couple days training together, which has been really good. But it's weird going from that full-time environment to every day seeing these people really pushing yourself, well, mentally and physically, because that's what you do in sevens. It's a hard sport. So yeah, it's been tough going from seeing your mates every day, seeing your mates every day, to not really seeing anyone. Do it on your own, because like Lana said, we're all still wanting to do this Olympic dream. So it's tough keeping that afloat and keeping that motivation, but hopefully, like us doing this stuff now to get our name out there and really push for some funding and some help in any way can really help and get us back to, like Lana said, training as soon as possible.
I think with that as well, Sean, I think the hardest thing is, and I don't know if you've listened to Johnny Wilkinson's recent podcast, but that was fascinating about how he tries to live in sort of the moment and how he's changed his whole sort of viewpoint around that. But I think the hardest thing for staff and players is that a lot of individuals feel a bit lost. So you gain that sense of purpose, and again, rightly or wrongly, but you have that sense of purpose through what you do, whether it be myself working with these amazing, talented individuals and athletes, or as an athlete in terms of they have an endpoint which they were working towards, which is Tokyo. I mean, a lot of the players, it would have been their final tournament before potentially going into retirement. And then suddenly, obviously, with the difficulty of COVID and then being told that there's going to be no program, you almost lose that sense of purpose. So then how do you keep that sort of continual motivation, find where you fit in, and keep it going from there? So
100%.
Yeah, definitely. And before we sort of ask some more questions, I've just put the link to the Pledge Sport page into the chat. So if anyone watching this or listening to this, and I'll make sure it's on everywhere on the podcast and stuff like that. But then there is a goal that you need to raise. How much is that goal, and how have you done so far, I guess?
Do you want me to answer that?
You go for that, Alon, as you know this more than me.
So I think the final budget, as a program, I think our program cost in total was around sort of $2.5 million. Now, a lot of that we're trying to sort of accumulate through sort of bigger private investment and hedge funds. But I think our initial reasoning of setting up the Pledge Sports page is to try and get some sort of program up and running to allow the players to at least be training and have some sort of facility to train in, things like that. It's slightly different circumstances between the men's and women's program as well. So the women's programs at the money, again, obviously funding's still been an issue because, the financial salary cap of the women's premiership is very low. So it's obviously not enough to fund these women who are training very hard. But they're still managing to get into clubs and at least get some rugby and some training. A higher proportion of the boys program at the moment. So there's a couple that have been lucky enough to be picked up by sort of 15 premiership clubs. A lot of the boys are at a loose end, like Ethan said. A lot of the teams are cutting players because of funding problems themselves. So it's a very difficult time for some of these seven specialists coming out. And where does their place sit, within rugby at the moment as it stands? And obviously with the government's new announcement that there's going to be no National League rugby till the new year. Again, like, how do you prep for 6 months for an Olympic Games, which is one of the biggest sporting occasions in the world? So it's very difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And on the funding thing, then, is it just the RFU have pulled out, or have Sport England pulled out, or whatever grants you get from Team GB? Is that all gone as well, or is it just the money that would have prepped you for Tokyo rather than Tokyo Games itself?
So I don't really know how sort of the GB funding works. All I know is that sort of Team GB obviously had have a pot of money that they've spread around sort of Olympic sports. But my understanding is that around sort of commercialised sports such as rugby, tennis, I think, and football, obviously there's no funding in place for these, as there's other organisations. But and again, it's difficult because it's not England going to the Olympics; it's Team GB. Yeah. So England needed to, the RFU needed to make savings, and they saw that they could do that through the Sevens programme. So that was their decision based on that. As with every nation at the moment, they're in a financial difficulty. You've obviously seen Wales come out. They said they need to save money through cutting their Sevens programme. But obviously, with England being the team that is responsible for a GB qualification, then that obviously changes things up as well, especially how does it work going into the next Olympic cycle, seeing as, England are the stalwarts who allowed Team GB to compete at an Olympic Games.
Is that how it works? So if England are the nation that if they do well enough, they get they qualify for Team GB. Is that right? Yeah,
that's how it was last summer. We both women and the men's part qualified that way. So we'd saw the team for Scotland, Wales that sort of seeks it through.
Okay, so what needs to happen for you to get to Tokyo? How much, when, by, when does sort of an initial amount need to come in so that you can all be re-employed and start training again, etc.?
As soon as possible, really, isn't it? Sorry, you go, Lonners.
I was going to say these are all good questions that, we probably don't have the answer to. For me, thinking of it logically, okay, if you can get the guys starting up in some sort of part-time program till the new year to at least keep them physically active, and then as soon as obviously World Rugby then announced their restart of Sevens dates, they'll have a set amount of tournaments as preparation for the Olympics. Again, none of this has been announced. We know no dates. But as soon as those have been announced, obviously you're going to need a certain amount of prep time to minimise injury risk and to making sure that the guys and girls are conditioned enough to go into competition. You're looking at, I guess, a 6 to 8 week period to allow that to happen. So, as soon as you get into the new year and tournaments, well, again, depending what happens nationwide and with regards to the pandemic, but obviously you can't leave it too long.
No, on a playing sort of aspect of that, like when did we go in lockdown? Was it March sort of time? We haven't played since March, and doing skills in groups of 3, 4, 5 is sort of the bare minimum. Like you can get by that, but your sharpness goes a little bit. 6 months, 12 months of not playing rugby, it does have an effect on how you play the game. I'm sure we'd be able to pick it up again quite quickly, but you're off the pace. You're not quite there. You're not reading pictures as well as you have been. So, sort of the sooner the better. If I'm thinking with my rugby head, I haven't passed the ball with more than 2 people since this whole thing's happened, and if I did get a call up for the 15s club in the next week or 2, I just know that it's going to be a bit of a shock going straight in because I haven't done anything for 6 months, and it's all like Jesus. And like Lorna said, that's when injuries occur as well because our bodies are we're trying to do the bare minimum to get by at the moment to keep in that shape, but I'm nowhere near rugby fitness, and I'm sure a lot of the boys would agree with me there. So soon, the sooner the better is really the answer, but I think Lonners is right. In the meantime, sort of a part-time thing would really be a benefit. Like we know in the current climate, it's tough to get the money in because there's not a lot of money there in the world. But yeah, sort of get that as soon as possible, really.
I think just on that as well, Sean, there's a couple of things I just want to add. So firstly, since starting up, obviously, the England Sevens Instagram account and the Pledge Sport page, it's been overwhelmingly positive, the amount of people who wanted to support and help the players in terms of, even if it's just offering their own services. We've had many sort of physios, nutrition companies all offer their services to these guys and girls. So like the actual support that we've been given through pundits as well, through obviously people like yourself allowing us to voice our opinions, has been overwhelming. I think the one other positive is that obviously there's this Super Series 10s coming up in Bermuda. So
I've seen about that,
yeah, so it's a platform for a few of the guys to at least get some rugby. Unfortunately, Ethan's sort of still in later stages of rehab, so can't put himself forward for that. But some of the guys who are fit, unfortunately, it's only a guys' competition at the moment, a male competition. But it's amazing that they get the opportunity to play rugby. So yeah, I think those two factors have been, positives to come out of sort of a really dark time.
So yeah, second that from Lon.
I've got one more question, which is based on what Lon has said a minute ago about the World 7 Series. You won't be able to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So the England, the RFU pulled the Sevens program. The World 7 Series starts back up. Are you allowed to play, and are you allowed to play as England, or do you have to play as some, the Red Roses or Team GB or something like that, something along those lines?
I think Lorna's can help me out here, but I think if it starts back up now, it is like England rugby. Like they'll just sort of pick up who's about. Really, I don't really know fully how it would go, but we are still sort of at the moment seeking funding for England. Like that we do want. Like if it goes to Team GB, then happy days. Like either way, we want to get to the Olympics, but at the moment we want England sort of to play. I don't know any more about that, Lawrence, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, like I don't know what the RFU plans have finalised, but I know that sort of if the tournament starts up, an England team will go. Again, depending on what that looks like and who's selected, I have no idea. How long before will you meet? I have no idea. But like an England team will go, but just as it currently stands, there's no full-time Sevens program available.
Would it piss you off if you do all this hard work, you raise the money yourselves for Team GB or whatever, and then the RFU go, well, we want the branding, we want the everything else, but you guys have done all the hard work in raising the cash. Does that bother you or not? Or is it just a case of let's just get there?
Do you want to answer that first, Steve, or shall I?
You take that, Lonners.
But I just think it wouldn't piss me off, because ultimately, like, every organisation is going through tough times. So, like, you can't hold it against the RFU for what they've done. They've had to save money somehow. Unfortunately, we've been the ones that have dealt with the repercussions of that. Now, obviously, money's been said it's an issue. If we manage to get and raise the money and find the money as a group, like, first of all, the group's been amazing. So there's been like a really core group of men's and women's players who are really driving this. Had loads of different conversations. Through this time, obviously, the players have learned perhaps some skills that they may not necessarily would have if this didn't have happened. So obviously that's a positive. But I think if we can get the money somehow and work with the RFU to bring back a Sevens program, like from a personal point of view, like I have no issues with that, and I think it's great that they can still represent the country they were proud of representing, which is England ultimately.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like these guys and girls, from what I've spoke to them about, have so much passion in representing the Rose and representing England. And if we together can generate the funding to help support the RFU and bring this program back, then amazing. And it's everyone watches these All or Nothings and Hard Knocks TV series. Like if you've watched the Tottenham one recently, and their build up through COVID, like what a story to go from like having COVID, having the program cut, generating some funding, working with the RFU to bring it back to then go and represent Team GB to get a medal. Like amazing for these athletes, an amazing story, and something which, if it was documented, what behind the scenes stuff, it'd be amazing.
Get on it. If Netflix are watching this, which I doubt it, then it's a story to be told. So why not? Why not?
Especially when you've got people like Ethan as well. That's face on screen, amazing.
Save the camera, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Quickly before we move on, I've got a contractedly obliged plug for Rugby Store that I need to do. Rugby Store have once again sponsored this show, and you can get 10% off anything at the store. Just use FYB Pod at the checkout, and that's my contracted bit sorted. Lovely. So, Ethan, what have you been up to the last couple of months then?
So I've been very fortunate to train with a big man, Loners, for the last couple months. We've been doing sort of Monday, Wednesday, Friday sessions, but I've also been in, because like Lona said earlier, I'm coming back from an injury. So I had a knee op in February, I think it was. So during lockdown was a bit of a pain. Couldn't really do anything, couldn't run, just had uppers, which actually was quite fun, but I couldn't really do the running and keep myself fit. So I went in for a little bit and had sort of rehab and physio with some people from the RFU, like I don't know his name, surname, Barney, but he does the 20s work, and yeah, he's been looking after me for a bit. But alongside that, I've been with the big man Loners, and then just trying to find jobs, trying to find delivery jobs, sort of thing. But firstly, trying to get a rugby job, which is a hard market at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much with me at the moment.
And Loners, you?
Yeah, so obviously trying the actual one saving grace for all of this lockdown is being around people, and obviously now being able to train some athletes, like it brings me a huge amount of joy and happiness. So to have a bit of contact with some of the guys, some of the girls has been really helpful for me mentally. I'm lucky enough to have a few sort of private clients that I work around, and a friend of mine who owns a lovely brewery in Isha, Big Smoke Brewery. So he's been helping me out with a little bit of work, but yeah, just trying to keep, for me, that whole industry of S&C is part of the coaching is a skill, and it's like anything. Like after being in lockdown and then going back to my first coaching session, I was like, oh my god, I feel ropey. Just that communication, sort of cues you give. So I think just getting back coaching. I'm lucky enough to have a few really good sort of athletes as private clients, and I get to work with some incredible athletes within the Sevens program. So for me, I'm really lucky that I can still practice my craft, practice my skill. Start to this time's also allowed me to think about some different sort of research questions and aspects. So I come from a university sort of lecturing background as well, so it's allowed me to sort of touch upon some of my sort of academic side of things again, which has been great. But yeah, ultimately, just being around these guys and girls, and the thing with the Sevens program is that you go through sort of a few different organisations' environments, and everyone's like, no, this is really unique. This is really unique, but the Sevens is because of the tightness of the group, the men's and women's based in the same place, the size of the group, there's a real big sort of uniqueness amongst one another and a real big family feel. And that's proven by some of the staff members that have given up some really sort of high profile jobs to come back into this environment, because it is a very special environment. And it's really hard to depict that through me talking about it, through Ethan talking about it. But, to not have that sort of feel there and family feel again is quite upsetting.
Sounds like it. For Ethan, is that the same? How you feel?
100%. I've been very fortunate. I was straight into the Sevens out of school when I was 18, so I'm 23 now. Is that 5 years? Jesus. But yeah, it is 100% what Lona said. I mean, you spend so much time together, and it's not like a massive squad. I think we usually squad of 20, less this year, I think, and you just get to know one another, and you go away for 2 weeks with each other, and you're at each other's teeth. Like, I mean, you get sick of some people every now and then, but like it's just unique, as Lona said. It is really sort of a family vibe. We've really kept in contact as well, which has been good through these hard times. And like Lona said, that some of the things the boys are doing, and like this raising awareness, getting funding, and all that sort of stuff, the stuff they haven't had to do before. I mean, it's hats off to a lot of the people. I mean, I'm not really the one to go out there and take the business aspect of it. I'm more of a chat and a face sort of thing. But yeah, it's really encouraging to see everyone doing that. And yeah, it's a unique environment. I've absolutely loved my time there.
just on that as well, Sean, I mean, I guess it shows what sevens means to people, how much sort of contact players have had with sort of communication from the outside world. And again, we've got a friend of the sevens program, Stephen Griffiths, who's an investment banker. Now, he's given up a hell of amount of his own time as he is a friend of the sevens program to help us start this sort of venture. So yeah, big shout out to him, who's been incredible. He has a hell of a lot of his own work to do with development of his own trading platform. He spent so much of his own individual time to, speak, have meetings, speak to individuals, sort of driving this whole momentum really. And obviously one of the players' dads, Harry Glover and Jim Glover, been helping drive that and helping Stephen along the way. So without these people within our family, it just wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, I guess that shows what it means to some individuals as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And outside of sort of the professional rugby world and the business world, how fans sort of got in touch and showed their support?
Oh yeah, it's been overwhelming. Like as Lorna said, the people reaching out are sort of, I'd hate to say freebies, but have been offering stuff for us to help us out for the time being, and really putting up their services, sort of physio, it might be, drinks, energy drinks sort of thing, just anything to help us in that aspect. And this pledge sport and this GoFundMe and all that, it's been amazing what we've got from it. I mean, you go on.
I was just going to say what you said there, Eve. Tom Farrow, sort of the lead S&C from the men's program, kindly offered, so with his company, A Retail Performance, kindly offered like a facility to be able to train in, to allow these boys to train. So like things like that's been amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out.
No. You chuck it in. You chuck all the names in there, Loners, mate. Yeah. You're getting the
get all your plugs in. Get all your plugs in. Might as well.
No, it's been overwhelming. It's been really good it's been a tough time, but it's been really nice to see the support we've had from fans, from people in the sevens, like Lon said, with Farah and that, and friends of the sevens. So yeah, it's been quite heartwarming, but like I said, it's still tough times. We still need to get over that, get that end goal sort of thing. But yeah, it's been really good.
So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So how can people get involved? How can they show support? Where can they find more details about what's going on?
Come on, big Loners, big plug Loners.
He's probably got it written down.
It's not showing up. Right. So we've got a new Instagram account set up. So an England Sevens Instagram account, which a couple of sort of girls are running, which is amazing. Loads of footage, loads of stuff on there. Tom Emery's done an amazing job of setting up our sort of pledge sport page as well, to generate some funds to start to actually get this program up and running. And again, if there's anyone out there with sort of any contact within the business world for sort of external funding, etc., like we're looking at all opportunities at the moment and all ventures in order to sort of get something back, and for the guys and girls to achieve their Olympic dream. Ultimately, it comes down to a dream, and I know that sounds very cheesy, but the Olympics is the biggest sporting event in the world. It's as a child you grow up watching the Olympics. It's a dream to compete in that. And these guys and girls, like from a staff perspective, yeah, it's amazing, but more everything's focused on these guys, the girls and guys, to have an opportunity to go represent Team GB at an Olympic Games. Like, so, yeah, I can't say any more than that really.
That's nice, Loners.
No, that was a nice little pitch. Gents, as I said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and I think we're about to lose Ethan into the night sky.
Yeah, I might move closer to some light.
So I just want to thank you. Please keep in touch. Let's come back in a couple of months' time and let us know how you're getting on, and if you need any more help, there's lots of people here that will help, I'm sure, and to help spread the word. So yeah, stay in touch. Cheers, Ethan. Cheers, Ben. This will be a YouTube video shortly. It'll be a podcast tomorrow morning, and we'll share links everywhere. and get these guys' stories told, and hopefully raise a lot of money to get these guys to the biggest sporting event in the world. So cheers, lads. Cheers, everyone, for watching.
Cheers.
We'll
Thank
see
you
again next week. Cheers.
Sean.
Cheers.